Hello, my name is Kristen A. Vincent. Some of you may know me as the author of Time Quest, The Slave Who Became a Hero, published June 4th, 2014. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am 29 years old and I have type 2 Pfeiffer Syndrome. What Pfeiffer Syndrome is, if I honestly, even though I have it, I don't know much about it, so you might want to Google it. But what happens is the bones fuse together it, while you're in the womb, and it can cause protruding eyes. It causes protruding eyes. It can cause webbed hands, but hands and feet. I don't have that, so that might be a type 3 thing. And it can cause stunted growth and a whole bunch of numerous other medical problems. What happened was my mom and dad found out they were pregnant, and like early on or something, the doctors they found something wrong, but they didn't know what it was, because back when I was a baby, doctors didn't know about Pfeiffer Syndrome. They had no idea that it was even a thing. And it's actually so rare that like 100,000 people, like 1 in 100,000 people get it, and it's even rarer in girls. So I guess like Hannah Montana says, I'm 1 in a million. But it was so rare they didn't know anything about it, and a specialist actually told my mom that it would probably be better for her to abort me, because I would have no quality of life. I wouldn't be able to speak. I wouldn't be able to attend school. I wouldn't be able to walk. He thought I'd just be a potato, like a vegetable or something. But so my mom said no, obviously, because I'm here. And she gave birth to me. But what happened was, when she gave birth, she gave birth naturally, and my skull had already formed, like fully formed. And when I came out, my head was crushed. It doesn't look like that now because I've had surgery. My head was crushed, and it kind of came out looking like a pear. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. You know how pears look? It looked like that. I jokingly call myself a pear head all the time. Don't call me that, though. It's a joke between me and my parents. But I came out with a lot of problems, and I had the big eyes. No webbed hands. I don't know what happened there, but I'm actually thankful for that. And I came out looking pregnant because I was I don't know what happened. They said I don't know. My stomach was really big. I really don't know what happened there. I don't think it has anything to do with Pfeiffer Syndrome. But anyway, I had hydrocephalus, so right away they had to rush me into surgery. Mom said when the doctor delivered me, the nurse burst into tears because she never saw anything like it. And the doctor had to rush me into surgery. It was my first brain surgery. 2 weeks old, I had to get a shunt placed in my head because I had hydrocephalus. And my brain was actually being crushed by fluid and bone. So they had to take out, I still have soft spots. They had to take out bones and reshape my head. I think they did that hours after I was born, but at 2 weeks old, they put in a shunt because I had hydrocephalus, and if I didn't get that taken care of, I would have died. And actually, if they didn't get the whole fixing the head thing taken care of, I would have died too. Like right after I was born. But thank God I had doctors that knew what they were doing. Well, like I said, the physician said I wouldn't be able to speak. I am 4'8", I believe, but I lie and tell everybody say I'm 4'9" because it makes you feel better. And that is due to the scoliosis. My back is like this. It looks like a question mark. And they said that had to do with Pfeiffer Syndrome as well. And I can't walk very far without a wheelchair. So the physician was kind of right on that. He was wrong because I could walk. But after like 30 minutes or so, I have to use a wheelchair because my back and legs start hurting really bad. Like my hip is not where it's supposed to be. And all my organs, instead of being like below the sternum, they're on the side. So I'm probably a medical anomaly, and I love it. And I've had over 50 surgeries, and 3 of them were brain surgeries. One brain surgery almost cost me my life. I was in the hospital for a while. I had to have a halo. It's called a RED device. I'll have to put a picture below. But my eyes are normal now. Well, nothing's normal. Nobody's normal. But my eyes were protruding out of my head, and I will show you some pics of my baby pictures or little kid pictures. And they had to like bring it forward. What happened was they cut my face off like from here to here, and they peeled it forward, and then they cut my skull apart. I've actually seen my brain because it was such a risky surgery that Amazing Medical Stories picked it up, and they followed me. The documentary followed me for months and months and months. I was 10 years old. They followed me prepared for the surgery, and then in the surgery, and then my 11th birthday, and then it goes off. And it's kind of funny. I'm the only one I know that can watch my own surgery. Everybody else starts crying and like throwing up and stuff, and I'm just sitting there like, cool, I can see my own brain. I saw my own brain. It was so cool. But I had to get like 40 stitches and 40 staples. Of course it's healed, because if it wasn't, it would just be like hanging down and I wouldn't be alive. But anyway, that was pretty cool, actually. I went to New York for my 8th grade field trip, and of course I was in my wheelchair because we were walking a long time. And this girl who I was going in the Statue of Liberty, and this girl stopped me and said, "I saw you on TV." And I live like states and states and states away from her. And she said, "I saw you on TV. You were in the Amazing Medical Stories." And she recognized me all the way from where I live to New York. And she actually asked me for my autograph, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world. But anyway, after that, I had some teeth. I got braces because my mouth was a horror show and I couldn't breathe. And actually, when I slept, here's the reason for the red device. When I slept, my tongue would cover my like esophagus or whatever, and I would suffocate in my sleep. And I actually wear a mask for that now. It's sleep apnea mask. So I'm fine now. But anyway, I had that surgery. I actually had this toy bear with me, this stuffed bear that my cousin Sarah gave me, and they actually dressed it up like a doctor and gave it a name tag and everything. It was so funny. I was like lingering between life and death for like 2 weeks. And then, well, obviously I survived. But anyway, since then I've had over 50 surgeries, braces for my teeth. They actually said my back is so bad that I can't wear a back brace because it'll make me worse. And there's a 50-50 chance if I do the surgery that I'll be paralyzed for the rest of my life. So I didn't want to take that chance. But anyway, I started taking martial arts when I was like 12, 14 or something. I don't remember. And my shunt during one of the demonstrations broke. And I remember doing push-ups, and I just fell to the floor and I started bawling. I started crying. And it turned out I had brain fluid in my spine. And they said if they didn't catch it, I would have been paralyzed. And so I had to get a Chiari malformation, or Chiari something. Chiari deformation or something. I think I had a Chiari malformation, and the surgery was called a Chiari deformation. They sucked all the spinal fluid out, but they took like a big old chunk of my neck so they could put another shunt in, because that shunt wasn't working at all. And that wasn't a good time. Fast forward to the future, I had my first brain surgery was at 2 weeks old. When I was like 16, I had my second brain surgery, and it actually messed with my mind so much that I got OCD, which I didn't have before the brain surgery. And I went a little crazy, and I actually had to, you know what, you don't need to know that. But things got really bad for a while. And now I'm on medicine for OCD, even though before the brain surgery, that wasn't even a thing. But then I started getting horrible headaches. Actually, I'm missing something. I tripped and fell in the bathroom last October, and in October 2019, like right before COVID, I tripped and fell in the bathroom, and I tore my neck arteries, both of them. And the doctor kept saying, it's just a sore muscle, just massage it. And the surgeon said, if you massaged it the wrong way, she could have had a stroke and died. So I had to be put on bed rest for 6 months. And I had to take blood thinners, and now I have to take aspirin every day. But they're fine now. But shortly after that, a year later, I started getting horrible headaches, and they were actually so bad that I would sleep day and night. And I said, I need to go to the hospital. Something's wrong. And we thought it was the arteries again. So we went for a CAT scan to look at the arteries, and they said, your arteries are fine, but fluid is building up in your brain because your shunt stopped working. And I had to get another brain surgery. But 50 surgeries later, and 50, like 56, 59, 56, 59 surgeries later, and 3 brain surgeries later, I'm actually doing really well. This is actually the best I've done. And Pfeiffer Syndrome also caused my elbow to fuse together. I just say I'm also deaf, or mostly deaf, hearing impaired, so I talk like super loud and I have to read lips. All that has to do with Pfeiffer Syndrome, and the fusing of my elbow has to do with Pfeiffer Syndrome, but I'm lucky because this elbow's fine. Usually, I don't know. But anyway, I do everything with one hand. Can you imagine putting a mask on for COVID with one hand? That's like hellish. And anyway, I had my latest brain surgery, and now I'm doing fine. Actually, the OCD is gone. The brain surgery that caused the OCD, I had another brain surgery, and now the OCD is gone. I have no idea how that happened. But now you know about my history with Pfeiffer Syndrome. Now you know what I have. So let me tell you what I have, what I am. Let me tell you who I am. I started writing when I was 13 years old. I started writing a whole bunch of books, and actually, Time Quest, a lot of people have it now. I actually started out as a comic book, because I love to draw. But then around the time when I started drawing a lot, I got double carpal tunnel, and now I can't even pick up a pencil. So I was like, I'm going to turn it into a book. And it started out as a comic, and I think it was really good. I just wish I could have finished it, because carpal tunnel is no joke. But that has nothing to do with Pfeiffer Syndrome, by the way. I just like to draw and write all the time. But I wrote Time Quest. I started when I was 14, and I finished 2 years later when I was 16, which is why Zach Thompson is 16. He was originally 14 or 15, but I changed it to 16 because that's when I finished it. And I started out giving manuscripts to my friends. That's how I started out, just giving manuscripts to my friends. And I remember, firstly, I gave my manuscript to my math teacher, and she's like, I'll see if I like it. And then she read chapter 1. She went, I love it, give me more. And I was like, oh no, I created a monster. And I didn't think it was good enough, so I spent 6 years editing it. And on June 4th, 2014, when I was 21, I wrote it when I was 14, but when I was 21, I published it. And it actually, I don't know how this happened, but this, my mama said she was talking to her friend who was a news reporter, and he said, we'd like to have her on Great Day Live. So I was on Great Day Live, and the thing was, inspiring author overcomes disability to write a book. And I talked about my book and I talked about my disability. Um, Unfortunately, my mom showed my newborn baby pictures, which I thought I burned them all. But I was not a pretty baby. I was an adorable toddler, but not a pretty baby. But anyway, I guess I was. But anyway, so I went on Great Day Live, and it happened to be National Pancake Day that day. So we went to Indiana. And I'm sitting there in IHOP waiting for a table, and this woman walks up to me and she says, "I saw you on Great Day Live this morning. You're that author of Time Quest, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, I didn't know it came to Indiana." And she said, "Yeah, everybody in Indiana sees it." And so it amasses 2 states. And she asked for a book then and there, so I made $13.95 just by wanting pancakes. But that's not it. That's not all. A couple months later, this producer from Great Britain, she said she saw Great Day Live. I don't know how she did, because it was a local TV show. And she said she wanted me to come to Britain to be a part of their Pfeiffer Syndrome TV show. She said it was between me and one other girl. Unfortunately, I think they chose the other girl, because after a while I stopped hearing from her. But still, it was like really exciting that a British TV show wanted to do a thing on me, because I was born with this rare disorder, and I think they were more impressed that I wrote a book. I'm not sure what they were impressed with, but that kind of fell through. But I was still really honored, and I started selling my book at Fandom Fest, and that is where I met Carrie Fisher, who everybody knows plays Princess Leia. That's actually an interesting story, because there are people waiting for hours to get autographs and other stuff from her, and she just looked really annoyed and really upset. And I was like, well, nobody knows this, but the reason I wanted her to have my book is because Akeda, the bandit, her outfit is inspired by Leia's slave outfit when she's a slave to, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. But anyway, Jabba the Hutt, yeah. It's been so long since I've seen Star Wars. So I wanted her to have an autographed copy. And I go over there. I walk past the line. And I tell her bodyguard, I'm just trying to be discreet. I tell her bodyguard, I said, I have something for Carrie Fisher. And he said, he said, what is it? And I said, I wrote this book, and I was inspired by her, so I want her to have an autographed copy. And she came over to me, and she was like super irritated. And she said, do you want another autograph? And he said, actually, this little girl wants to autograph something for you. And she just softened up completely, and she went, nobody's ever given me an autograph before. And she said, you know what? Let her come backstage, and we'll take pictures, and I'll autograph that book for her. And I said, no, you don't have to. I want to autograph you a book. And so she autographed the book, but right before, I was dressed up as a queen. And so many people, even though she's Carrie Fisher, they treat her like Princess Leia. And she looked at me and she said, "Aren't you going to bow down before a princess?" And I said, "Why should a queen bow down before a princess?" And she started laughing and she told her bodyguard, she said, "I love this girl." And um, we took pictures and she posed with my book and I autographed a book for her. And she said, she told me, she said, "You're the first person to treat me like a normal person." And I said, "That's because you are a normal person. Fame doesn't change that." And she broke down crying and she hugged me. And she wrote on the book, "Thanks for treating me like a normal person." She wrote it in like archaic / Star Wars, so it was like hard to decipher. But Mom found out it meant thanks for. She said it said something like, "She saw through my royal visage and treated me like any other." And she said, "You treated her like a normal person, so she thanked you for it." And anyway, that's how Carrie Fisher got my book. Min Chin from Comic Book Man, he actually bought it. I was going to give it to him, and he bought my book. He said, I would love to help you expand your business. So he bought it. And then a couple years later, I ran into Eugene, Josh McDermott, and I told him I had a book for him, and he said, "I love that." And he hugged me and he said, "Where's the book?" And I autographed it for him, and I said, "To Josh, remember, I am smarter than you." And mom said, "That's rude." And he said, "Honey, it's my line. Eugene says, I am smarter than you." And it was so funny. And Mom went, "All right." The weird thing is she watches more Walking Dead than I do. And I met Stan Lee twice. Stan Lee, I drew him a picture and he said, "Man, you're a damn good artist. You should work for me someday." And I said, "Actually, I'm not an artist. I'm an author. And I want to be an author. I'm getting a book published." He said, "Well, as soon as it's published, give me one." And so a few years later, I came back and gave him a book. And he said, "Excelsior!" So I posed for pictures with Josh McDermott, Stan Lee, and Carrie Fisher. And those girls, I also some other celebrities that have my book are those, like, I don't know if they're twins, but they're the girls from Walking Dead. I think one of them's name is Lizzie, the girl who killed her sister so she could come back as a zombie. That was crazy, by the way, but they were really nice. Matthew Hillard, the voice of Shaggy. Joey Fatone, I told him, I said, "You know how many people used to beat me up for listening to NSYNC?" And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said, "I'm not. I'm meeting my idol and he's buying my book." I said, "How many other people can say that?" And that guy from Z Nation, I don't really watch Z Nation, but he's the star of Z Nation. And I don't know this guy, but Mom said that older people would. I was showing Matthew Hillard my book, and this guy, Flash Gordon, he came by. He said, "Looks interesting." He said, "Take me to your booth and I'll buy one." And I got lost. Actually, it's a big place, so he actually helped me find my booth, and Mom went, "Oh my gosh, it's Flash Gordon!" I was like, "Really?" I couldn't figure out who he was. He said, "I'm too old for you." So I got a picture with Flash Gordon. But that's the end of the line for the celebrity thing. I've also been on a couple radio shows talking about Pfeiffer Syndrome, and I've been in the Courier Journal, but really, who reads newspapers anymore? I've also been on WHAS 11 News. That wasn't, none of that was about my book. It was about my my syndrome. But anyway, Time Quest was just a hobby for me, but I can't believe what it did for other people. I have stories from other people that you wouldn't believe. All I can remember are two of them, but my mom, while she was working one time, this woman called her and asked for a part, and this woman asked how her day was and her family, and my mom said, my daughter's an author. She just published a book. And she had told her that I had Pfeiffer Syndrome, which was a disability. She said she's disabled and she wrote a book, which she wasn't saying that like, oh my gosh, she can actually write. No, she was saying it was amazing that I could do so much. And the woman said, oh my gosh, I need to buy that book. So, the woman actually was from Florida, and she wrote me a note saying that I don't remember if her son was autistic or on the spectrum or something, but she wrote me saying, I want you to write my son because he wants to be a writer, but people have told him he can't be a writer because he's disabled. And I said, that's a load of crap. So I sent him a book with a note inside telling him not to listen to the haters, to write to his heart's content. And I get a letter weeks later saying he was working on his first book. And all he can talk about is being an author, just like Kristen A. Vincent. And he's never met me before. I don't know who he is. And honestly, I will never meet him. But that sends shivers down my spine. Because it was just a hobby to me. It was just a passion. Like, all I really did, I wrote for me and my friends. I didn't think it was going to get published and even do that. But then a couple weeks later, my mom worked at volunteered at a homeless shelter. And there was this girl with a notebook, and she was scribbling in it. And my mom said, hey, how you doing? She went, I'm doing fine. And she just sounded like she was really depressed. And my mom said, what you got there? She went, some ideas for a book, but I want to be a writer, but how can I be a writer if I'm homeless? And my mom told her about me and how I'm an author, and Mom said her face lit up and she started writing a book right away. She said, I'm going to get off the streets, and it's going to be thanks to that girl. Which, again, I have no idea how that happened. But anyway, back to something even weirder than that. It didn't have anything to do with Time Quest. It had to do with my Amazing Medical Stories book, Amazing Medical Stories documentary. I have a friend on Facebook. We don't know each other than Facebook. And we met in a Pfeiffer Syndrome page. And she liked me and I liked her, so we became friends on Facebook. And then I share my Amazing Medical Stories with her, and she went, oh my gosh, you're that girl. And I went, yeah, I'm that girl. What are you talking about? And she says that when she had her son, nobody knew about Pfeiffer Syndrome. So she was worried about it. And her husband turned on the TV, and lo and behold, my medical story was on there. And she said she never worried again about, well, she might have worried later on, but she said she wasn't worried about it anymore. And she actually made a prayer to God. She made a bargain with God. She said, help me find that girl one day so I can tell her how much she means to me. And we just randomly met on Facebook, and she said, God answered my prayers. I've been waiting for years to talk to you, and thank you. And I was like, I didn't even want to do the show. It was my mom's idea, so you should thank her, actually. But also back to the specialist who said I would have no quality of life. I'm speaking, aren't I? He said I wouldn't be able to talk. I'm trilingual. I can speak in 3 languages, and I'm learning 3 more. I can speak in Spanish, French, English, Hindi, Latin, and Japanese. I can speak pretty fluently in French and Spanish, and I'm teaching myself Latin, Japanese, and Hindi. And that's actually because of Time Quest 2, because in the first one there's a Indian in it, a guy from India, and I wanted him to stay true to himself and speak Hindi from time to time, so I taught myself Hindi. And the second one is in Rome, in ancient Rome, so I started learning Latin. The hardest one was Japanese, so I kind of stopped doing that one. It was giving me migraines. So that was out. And she said I'd never go to school. I graduated with honors, and I was on the National Beta Club. And I graduated with a 3.6 after not doing my homework for 2 months. I was trying to fail, and I still didn't. And then I went to college for a while and got straight A's, but I didn't have the money, so I dropped out. And then when I got the money, it was just too much pressure. Like Pocahontas, it just wasn't my path. My path is writing and just being me. So I think I have a pretty good quality of life. But the reason I made this video is because there are some people who just see my outer shell and they think I'm less than or something. They do that to a lot of people with disabilities. They think I'm less than. I can't really ever amount to anything because I have disabilities. But that's why I shared all these stories with you, because I think it shows that people with disabilities can be anything they want to be. They can amount to anything they want to amount to. They can reach for the stars and shatter glass ceilings. But unless you actually sit down with a person with a disability and get to know them, all you're going to see is the outer shell, and you're never going to get to know that person that's inside. You're never going to get to know how smart and beautiful and wonderful that they are, and you're never going to get to know that because you're too busy looking at something that doesn't even matter. Like, people, I don't know, people talk to me like I'm a little kid sometimes. They, I don't know why people do the things they do, honestly. That's why I made this, video, because I wanted to show you all the things that disabled people can do. Even though society says they can't do something, even though people put them down, even though bad things happen, they can still rise above and do great things. #disabled lives matter. Peace.